The Synod on Young People has ended. It's over. It's done. Here we are, a couple of weeks removed. We've already answered the question why any of this mattered. We've already talked about why young adults need to show up because it's important that their voices are heard. We know that the Synod on Young People was not just meant to be a drop in the bucket, this one-time thing where we gather together a bunch of bishops, we gather together a bunch of young people, and we said, hey, talk to each other and figure out what you want to do and figure out what you need from each other, and let's figure out how to get young people connected to the life of the church and answer the question, well, if you matter so much, what do we want from you and what do you want from us? You know, the Synod on Young People was not supposed to be a one-and-done thing. We've said that again and again. We heard that from a number of bishops, from the mouth of Pope Francis, who hopes and prays, he said, that the Synod on Young People does not just remain there in Rome, but is something that continues far beyond the reaches of the Paul VI Hall and becomes something that embeds within the life of our church. So the question needs to be asked, what next? What do we do now with what we heard from the Synod on Young People, what we know from the final document, what we can expect to see in the Apostolic Exhortation? What can we do right now in the waiting to help the Synod on Young People take root? And I think three very practical things can happen right away. Three things that we could do tomorrow, that we could do within the next month to make sure that young people are not only heard and listened to, but are valued, and that we're taking practical steps within our parishes and in our dioceses to ensure that young people are valued, respected, listened to, heard, and served. You know, one of the first things I'd like to see happen is that the bishops around the country hold listening sessions with young people. Bishop Caggiano tweeted just a couple of days after the synod ended that he's considering and praying about holding a year-long synod within his own diocese to figure out how best to serve the young people of Bridgeport, Connecticut. That is what I'd like to see every single bishop do. Every single bishop take time and make the effort to sit down with youth and young adults in his diocese to have dialogue and conversation. Bishop Burbidge in the Diocese of Arlington, Virginia has already done this. At their annual rally, this big high school youth event with over 900 young people that gather together for a day of fellowship and learning and prayer and a chance to go to mass and listen to talks and just have a good time, eat some pizza, have an opportunity for fellowship and an encounter with Jesus Christ. At that annual event, Bishop Burbidge made himself available and during one of the general sessions held a listening session with the high school students of his diocese. Asked them questions and listened to their answers. And he shared on a couple of different occasions how important this was and how moving it was for him to hear their testimonies, to hear their stories, to hear their thoughts, how he was able to learn and grow and better understand how to serve those people in his diocese, those young people that matter. What would it look like if every single bishop in the country took time to go listen to the high schoolers in his diocese, took time to go listen to the young adults in his diocese? And I'm not just saying like a general write-in campaign that young people get to write a bishop letter like they do at confirmation. That's important and that's valuable, but I'm talking one-on-one, face-to-face discussion and conversation. What would it look like if our bishops started holding open office hours, where once a month, and let's say a Tuesday afternoon from 1 o'clock to 5 o'clock, anybody can make an appointment with the bishop and get 15 to 20 minutes to just sit there and talk to him, to ask him a couple questions, to share a cup of coffee, to learn maybe a little bit about his reality day to day as a bishop. It can't be easy, and sometimes it's a very lonely and isolating position. There's only one bishop in a diocese at a time. So what would it look like if he made himself available to the youth, to the young adults, to anybody in his diocese to have that opportunity to discuss and to dialogue? I think the Synod on Young People showed what can happen when bishops are given the opportunity to engage with young people, how life-giving it can be, how exciting it can be, how both generations, the older generations of bishops who are in positions of leadership and young adults who have ideas and perspective and thoughts and hopes and dreams, how together those two can serve one another and serve the church and how the church can serve them. That leads to my second point, my second thing that I'd like to see happen as a result of this synod, and that's multi-generational opportunities being provided within a parish. And in my experience of youth ministry and traveling around speaking at various events, and even when I was a high school theology teacher, one thing I always saw, and it bugs me and it kind of hurts my heart, is that young people are kind of segmented. They're kind of put off to the side. The youth minister deals with the high school students. If you're lucky enough, the young adult minister deals with the young adults, or the college people, the college campus ministry can deal with those young adults. And then as soon as you graduate from college, you just kind of don't know where you fit within the life of the parish. But oftentimes what happens is this compartmentalization of ages within a parish community. I think we'd all greatly benefit from some multi-generational experiences. I'll give you a perfect example. When my husband and I got engaged, we were assigned a mentor couple at our parish. We had to meet with them 6-7 times. They had to kind of walk us through this little booklet, this marriage prep program. But one of the best parts of our marriage prep with this couple was when we'd close the book and we'd sit down and we'd get to just talk with Cleve and Elaine. We get to ask them questions, we get to learn about their backgrounds, we get to learn about what it was like raising kids, what it was like having jobs, what it was like investing their money, ask them practical things, get their advice, just to learn from them. Tommy and I were in our mid-20s when we were engaged and preparing for marriage. And Cleve and Elaine, well, they could be our grandparents. They were significantly older than us with a lot of different experiences in life. And it was so valuable and fruitful to learn what they had gone through, what they had experienced, what they had witnessed, listen to their advice, and we were able to share perspective with them. That multi-generational experience is beautiful, and we should make places and spaces and provide opportunities for that to happen. And one of the ways that I think that can happen is by including young adults, especially young adults, in areas of leadership within the life of the church. Every parish has a parish council, every single parish. And that parish council is responsible for a lot. They aid and advise the pastor, they give him insights, they answer his questions, they offer support. The parish council wields a lot of power within a parish community. What would it look like if every single parish council made space for 2 young adult representatives, 2 people under the age of 35 who are able to offer their insights, offer their expertise, offer their professional background, be able to explain what it's like for them as a young adult within the life of that community? Be able to not just breathe fresh ideas, because that doesn't mean to say that a young adult's just going to come in and flip over the tables and say everything we're doing is wrong, but to just be able to answer the question what it's like for them at that stage of life within that parish community, to offer that perspective from that age range. Multi-generational ministry can happen once young adults know older adults, know middle-aged adults, once young families get to know one another and young families can find older grandparents, and together this beautiful experience of church can happen. The Synod on Young People was obviously about young people. It was about youth and young adults and how to serve that age demographic for generations to come. Not just this current crop of youth and young adults, millennials and Gen Zers, but the next crop of high school students and young adults. But more importantly, the Synod on Young People, I think, was about this dialogue that's supposed to happen within the life of the church. How we serve young people by listening to them, but how the principle of listening and discussion and dialogue and accompaniment really applies to the life of the church in general. How when bishops make themselves available, they're able to accompany. When bishops start to listen and ask questions and pay attention to the answer and make themselves available, especially to youth and young adults, he as the bishop can lead and guide and shepherd better. How when young adults are brought to the table and their gifts and their talents are used, how a parish community can improve and grow. How when young people pay attention to the wisdom and the insight of old people, and how when old people recognize the vibrancy and the vitality of young people, how together the church can only benefit. What comes next for the Synod on Young People? Well, we've got a lot more to say and a lot more to do and a lot more to explore. When bishops begin to listen and make themselves available, when multi-generational experiences begin to happen, and when young adults are given a voice and positions of power and leadership within parish communities, well then I think we'll actually see some of the Synod on Young People take root and take effect. That's my hope. That's my prayer. That's what I think the Synod on Young People was about. Ave Explorers has been trying to unpack and explore that for the past 6 weeks, and we've been excited that you've been along for the journey with us. The Synod on Young People was hugely significant, it was hugely important, and it's still not over. Yeah, it's physically over in Rome, but it's not over because the work has just begun.